From the big house to the big leagues, this program has been pumping out NFL stars like a factory on overdrive. We're talking about the University of Michigan, one of the most legendary powerhouses in college football history. This isn't just about school spirit or rivalries. This is about 414 Wolverines who've made it to the NFL, 414 draft picks since 1938. And get this, Michigan has had at least one player drafted in 86 straight NFL drafts. That's nearly 9 decades of never missing a beat. And in this video, we're diving deep into it all. The milestones, the monsters, and the moments that turned Wolverines into household NFL names. Let's get started. The NFL draft didn't always look like a Vegas light show with confetti and fireworks. Back in the day, it was just team owners huddled in smoke-filled rooms, picking players off paper like they were ordering lunch. And even then, Michigan was already making noise. The Wolverines have been part of the draft story since nearly the beginning. The NFL draft kicked off in 1936, and by 1938, Michigan had its first draftee. Just 3 years later, boom, Tom Harmon, a Heisman winner, a two-way superstar, and the number 1st overall pick in 1941. That was the moment Michigan put its stamp on the league. Fast forward a few decades to 2008, and here comes Jake Long, an absolute brick wall on the offensive line, getting picked 1st overall by the Dolphins. And there's one more top pick in the books too, Rick Leach, a dual sport legend who was selected in the 1st round of the MLB draft and the 4th round of the NFL draft. While he wasn't number one overall in the NFL, his draft story added to the Wolverines' multi-sport mystique. And here's the interesting part. Michigan ranked 6th all-time for the most first-round NFL draft picks. That's 53 total first-rounders. 53 players who walked in as Wolverines and walked out as multi-million-dollar prospects. From black and white film to high-def draft night drama, Michigan's been right there. Generation after generation, sending blue and maize into the NFL like clockwork. Long before draft day meant tuxedos, green rooms, and primetime TV deals, Michigan was already putting names on the NFL's radar. Go back to the 1930s, when the league was still figuring itself out and helmets were leather. The University of Michigan was quietly becoming a factory for pro-level talent. By 1938, just 2 years after the NFL draft was born, Michigan had its first player picked. And only 3 years later, in 1941, they sent a full-blown superstar to the top of the board, Tom Harmon. He wasn't just the best player in college football. He was a living legend, a Heisman winner, a Hollywood-caliber athlete with all the charisma to match. When the Chicago Bears picked him 1st overall, it wasn't just a win for Harmon. It was a statement that Michigan didn't just build players. They built icons. Through the 40s and 50s, Wolverines continued to roll into the NFL. Names like Bob Chappas and Elmer Madar might not ring bells today, but back then, they were cold-blooded playmakers. These decades weren't flashy, but they were foundational. Michigan was stacking names, building credibility, and letting the league know that when you draft a Wolverine, you're getting someone who's already been battle-tested in the Big Ten. Then came the 60s and 70s. And this is where things started getting loud. The Wolverines weren't just sending players to the NFL anymore, they were sending legends. In 1966, Tom Mack, a guard so dominant it was borderline unfair, was picked 2nd overall. He went on to make 11 Pro Bowls and earn a gold jacket in Canton. By the time the 70s rolled around, Michigan's draft presence was in full swing. Dan Deerdorf was drafted in 1971. And if you know anything about linemen, you know Deerdorf isn't just a Michigan great. He's an NFL Hall of Famer and one of the nastiest men to ever lace up cleats in the trenches. Michigan wasn't just building NFL players anymore. They were building entire careers. Long ones, decorated ones. The program's reputation became crystal clear. If you want a guy who's tough, disciplined, and pro-ready, you take a Wolverine. Then the 80s and 90s hit, and now we're talking stars with swagger. Michigan turned into a launchpad for marquee names. In 1987, Jim Harbaugh, yes, that Jim Harbaugh, was drafted by the Bears. Before he wore khakis on the sidelines, he was out there throwing bombs and running huddles in the pros. But that was just the appetizer. The real fireworks came in the 90s. In 1992, Desmond Howard lit up the draft boards after winning the Heisman in one of the most dominant seasons ever for a receiver and return man. He was electric, unpredictable, and flat-out dangerous. The Redskins took him early, but it was with the Green Bay Packers that he made history. Super Bowl MVP, thanks to a kickoff return that broke the game wide open. He didn't just show up, he took over. And then Charles Woodson. There's not a football fan alive who doesn't know the name. Drafted 4th overall in 1998, a cornerback with the instincts of a quarterback and the hands of a wideout. He became the first and only primarily defensive player to win the Heisman. Then he went to the Raiders and spent 2 decades tormenting offenses, earning Defensive Player of the Year, and eventually a place in the Hall of Fame. Woodson wasn't just a Michigan legend, he was an NFL Titan. By the 2000s, Michigan wasn't just feeding the league, they were reshaping it. In 2000, Tom Brady went 199th overall. And if you're watching this, you know exactly how that story ended. The greatest quarterback of all time didn't even go in the top 5 rounds. But he came out of Michigan, and that's the part people forget. That icy leadership, that underdog edge, that championship DNA, that's Ann Arbor all the way. Then came 2008. Jake Long, a 6'7", 315-pound offensive tackle with a mean streak, was drafted 1st overall by the Dolphins. He was a wall, an anchor, a classic Michigan lineman, tough, nasty, and technically flawless. From there, guys like Brandon Graham, 2010, would leave their mark, especially when he strip-sacked Tom Brady in Super Bowl 52 to help the Eagles win it all. That's Michigan on Michigan crime, and it's beautiful. The draft pipeline stayed hot through the 2010s. Taylor Lewin, drafted in 2014, became a 3-time Pro Bowler and cornerstone of the Titans' offensive line. Jabril Peppers, the Swiss Army knife defender with freakish athleticism, went in the 1st round in 2017. Whether it was defense, offense, or special teams, Michigan was everywhere. And then we land in the 2020s, and let's just say the Wolverines aren't slowing down anytime soon. In 2022, Aiden Hutchinson went number 1, 2 overall to the Detroit Lions. A hometown kid with Wolverine blood and a motor that doesn't stop. He showed up on day 1 and made quarterbacks miserable. Classic Michigan DNA, toughness, leadership, elite production. In 2023, Daxton Hill became another defensive chess piece to watch. Picked by the Bengals in the 1st round. Speed, intelligence, and versatility. That's the Michigan brand. And then came 2024. J.J. McCarthy, the poised, clutch quarterback who led the Wolverines to a national title run, was drafted 10th overall by the Vikings. He's calm in the pocket, dangerous under pressure, and already drawing comparisons to big-time names. His selection made it 6 consecutive years with at least 1 Michigan player taken in the 1st round. That's not a streak, that's a tradition. So when people talk about Michigan's draft legacy, they're not just listing names. They're talking about Hall of Famers, Heisman winners, Super Bowl MVPs, and future legends. The Wolverines don't just make it to the league, they leave dents in it. From leather helmets to high-def draft stages, Michigan has sent more than 400 players to the NFL. And they're not done. Not even close. When it comes to the NFL draft, 1st-round picks carry a weight of expectation. And for Michigan Wolverines, many have delivered in ways that changed franchises and rewrote history. Let's start with a name that's already carved in stone, Charles Woodson, selected 4th overall in 1998 by the Oakland Raiders. By the time he entered the draft, he was already a college football legend, the first and only primarily defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. His Michigan days were filled with jaw-dropping interceptions, lockdown coverage, and even offensive touchdowns. In the NFL, he only got better. Woodson became a 9-time Pro Bowler, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and a Super Bowl champion with the Packers. His career spanned 18 seasons, and when he retired, there was no question he was Hall of Fame bound. He's now enshrined in Canton, a permanent reminder of what elite Michigan talent looks like on the biggest stage. Fast forward to 2005, when the Cleveland Browns used their third overall pick on Braylon Edwards, a wide receiver with size, speed, and sky-high potential. In Ann Arbor, Edwards had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and was the first Michigan receiver to win the Biletnikoff Award. In the NFL, his breakout year came in 2007, when he caught 16 touchdown passes and racked up nearly 1,300 yards, earning Pro Bowl honors. Injuries would eventually slow him down, but at his peak, Edwards was one of the league's most dangerous deep threats. Then came Taylor Lewan in 2014, drafted 11th overall by the Tennessee Titans. A menacing 6'7" left tackle with a mean streak and fast feet, Lewan had already built a reputation at Michigan for his elite pass blocking and toughness. In the NFL, he quickly became a fan favorite and locker room leader. With 3 Pro Bowl nods and countless highlight reel blocks, Lewan anchored the Titans line for nearly a decade. He brought the exact kind of nasty, no-nonsense football DNA Michigan is known for. And now, we look at the new wave, Aidan Hutchinson, selected 2nd overall in 2022 by his hometown team, the Detroit Lions. At Michigan, Hutchinson was a relentless edge rusher who terrorized quarterbacks and led the Wolverines to a college football playoff berth. He was a Heisman finalist, a rare feat for a defensive lineman, and instantly became the face of the defense in Detroit. His rookie season, 9.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and a game-wrecking presence that helped spark the Lions' revival. If his trajectory continues, he's not just a future star, he's a future captain, leader, and possibly a legend. From Woodson's Hall of Fame career to Hutchinson's explosive start, Michigan's first-round picks haven't just shown up. They've dominated, redefined their roles, and in many cases, changed the course of NFL teams. The NFL draft is a spectacle, but not everyone gets their name called. Still, Michigan's impact doesn't end with the final pick. Some Wolverines have taken the hardest road, going undrafted, and still made a lasting mark. Take Cullen Jenkins, for example. Undrafted in 2003, he clawed his way onto the Green Bay Packers roster and never looked back. Jenkins played 10 years in the NFL, winning a Super Bowl in 2011 and becoming one of the most respected interior linemen of his era. His story is one of grit, perseverance, and undeniable talent. Then there's Jeff Hecklinski, a quarterback-turned-coach whose NFL dreams may not have lasted long, but whose football IQ kept him around the game, eventually shaping young athletes across the country. Even without a long pro career, undrafted Wolverines continue to influence the sport from the sidelines. Being undrafted doesn't mean being unwanted, it just means the journey gets harder. But Michigan players, built on discipline, work ethic, and Big Ten battles, often find ways to make it anyway. They grind, they hustle, and when they finally get their shot, they're ready. That's the Wolverine way, drafted or not. When it comes to positional dominance, Michigan has carved out a legacy that's hard to ignore, especially in the trenches and the secondary. Let's start with the offensive linemen. Michigan is practically a factory for elite blockers. From Jake Long to Taylor Lewan to recent picks like Olusegun Oluwadami, the Wolverines have consistently developed linemen with size, smarts, and serious technique. It's no surprise they've sent over 60 offensive linemen to the NFL. These guys aren't just big, they're built with discipline. Then come the defensive backs, where legends like Charles Woodson, Ty Law, and Jabril Peppers made their mark. Michigan DBs don't just cover, they ball hawk, tackle, and bring swagger. This tradition keeps rolling, with rising stars like Will Johnson projected to be the next lockdown corner in line. And yes, even at quarterback, Michigan's presence looms large. Of course, Tom Brady, picked 199th overall, became the greatest of all time. But from Brian Grease to Chad Henn to J.J. McCarthy, the Wolverines continue to shape NFL huddles. Michigan doesn't just produce players, it specializes in crafting leaders by position. It's not just about talent, it's about how they're trained, tested and transformed in Ann Arbor. From number one picks to late round legends, from Hall of Famers to hungry undrafted stars. Michigan's legacy in the NFL isn't just impressive, it's intimidating. Year after year, the Wolverines don't just show up at the draft, they leave a mark on the league. But with so much history behind them and so much talent coming up, what's next for Michigan in the NFL? Let us know who your favorite Wolverine in the NFL is. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into college football's biggest powerhouses. We've only scratched the surface.